The night was so still that even the distant wind dragging across the hills sounded like a warning meant only for him. On the deserted edge of the village, a lone man ran breathlessly through the darkness, his footsteps uneven, his chest rising like he was escaping something that refused to be seen. Dry soil cracked beneath his feet, and every heartbeat thudded like it was fighting its way out of his ribs. Then everything stopped. The air froze. The temperature dropped so fast it felt like the earth itself exhaled in fear, and standing ahead of him a towering silhouette. A male figure made of ash, silent, unmoving, yet loud in the way nightmares scream without a sound. The man looked back over his shoulder. The entire village, every man was running toward him. Fear carved into their faces. But the real question wasn't why they were running. It was what they were running from, and why this ancient secret had followed every man in this village for centuries without ever fading. Before we dive deeper, hey, if stories that feel like midnight legends and forgotten truths pull you in, consider sticking around. You'll help this channel grow, and in return, I'll keep bringing you worlds you can almost feel breathing at the back of your neck. If you enjoy cinematic documentary-style storytelling told like a living memory, hit subscribe. Drop a like, or just leave a comment saying, "I'm here." Aaron stepped onto the ancient trail as the sky folded into a restless darkness. Every gust of wind brushing his face like a forgotten warning only men who listened to old legends could understand. The ground vibrated beneath his boots, carrying the echo of distant thunder, as though the valley itself awakened slowly. Stretching memories long buried under dust, silence and stubborn promises broken by generations of reckless men. He moved forward steadily, ignoring the uneasy tremor crawling up his spine, because he knew some nights weren't meant for comfort. They were meant for truth, no matter how sharply it demanded to be heard. The trees around him bent in unnatural unison, their crooked branches swaying like arms trying to shield him from something approaching with a silent stride, steady and powerful as a memory returning home. Every breath tasted metallic, thick with the scent of storms forming above the cliffs, swirling as though the sky remembered something about him, something it had been waiting decades to reveal. A sudden flash lit the horizon. Not lightning, but something slower, deliberate, unfolding in the clouds like the shape of a man carved from light before fading back into shadow once more. Aaron paused only a moment, letting the echo settle into his bones. Recognizing the same unspoken pull that once guided his father toward this valley before vanishing without leaving a single breath behind. The night deepened, carrying voices faint as dust, drifting across the wind like chants whispered by weary men who walked these paths centuries before him, each step echoing with heavy, unfulfilled purpose. He tightened his grip on the worn leather strap across his chest, feeling the familiar weight of his father's blade, the last object untouched by the disappearance that reshaped his entire life. Shadows stretched across the trail ahead, rising and falling like waves guided by silent drums, surrounding him with a rhythm that felt less like danger and more like an invitation carved into darkness. He stepped into the shifting shadows, forcing calm into his lungs, recalling every lesson taught by elder warriors, lessons about standing firm when unseen eyes followed, measuring a man's worth quietly. A cold breeze swept through the valley, sudden and sharp, wrapping around Aaron's shoulders like a warning cloak woven by unseen hands, determined to test his resolve before allowing him deeper. He continued, boots crunching against cracked stones, a steady pace cutting through the quiet as though marking a challenge against whatever force silently watched him from the trembling ridge above. The clouds parted slightly, revealing a thin silver glow that illuminated carved symbols on the rocks beside him, markings left by ancient male guardians sworn to protect the secrets buried here. Aaron brushed his fingers across the carvings, feeling them hum beneath his skin, vibrating like the heartbeat of a man trapped between life and legend, waiting for someone worthy to continue his oath. The air thickened, pressing against his ribs, stretching his breath thin. as though the valley tested his endurance. Pushing him toward the edge where courage met instinct without any room for hesitation. He steadied his mind, grounding himself in the memory of his father's final words, spoken quietly, yet with absolute certainty that real truth lived, where fear and destiny walked the same narrow path. Ahead, a flicker moved across the trail, a tall silhouette dissolving into smoke before reappearing farther down. Each reformation slower, as if deliberately guiding him deeper into the valley's core. Aaron followed without breaking pace, trusting the pull in his chest more than the rational doubts whispering warnings through the back of his mind like restless ghosts refusing silence. The ground dipped suddenly, forming a basin layered with dust that shifted strangely, swirling around his boots like it recognized him, curling past his ankles with gentle, almost respectful insistence. He inhaled deeply, feeling the valley breathe with him, each exhale heavy and warm, carrying scents of stone, ash, and a lingering presence that felt painfully familiar, yet impossibly distant. A distant rumble rolled through the cliffs, vibrating like a low growl from something massive stirring beneath the earth. Not hostile, but undeniably aware of his arrival on sacred ground. Aaron tightened his stance, letting instinct ripple through him, prepared for an encounter he knew had been waiting since the night his father vanished into this same merciless silence. Another flash of unnatural light streaked across the sky, slower and more controlled than lightning, revealing a tall figure standing atop the ridge. Shoulders broad, posture unmistakably human. But the figure didn't move naturally, flickered like a memory refusing to fully disappear, reshaping itself with each tremor of the storm as though bound between worlds by unfinished duty. Aaron felt his pulse quicken, not with fear, but recognition. The kind that settles deep in a man's bones when something long lost finally steps back into reach. The figure raised one arm, pointing toward Aaron with a deliberate, slow movement, the sky erupting behind him with a thunderous pulse that made the valley tremble in acknowledgement. Dust spiraled upward around Aaron, tightening into a narrow corridor leading toward the ridge, forming a path as if carved specially for him by forces older than spoken language. He stepped forward, committing fully, every part of him aligned with the relentless pull guiding him, the weight of destiny settling across his shoulders like a mantle finally claimed. The storm answered him with a final booming pulse, the sky rippling open as though welcoming the one man it had waited years to summon back into its ancient story. Aaron stepped onto the valley floor, boots sinking into dust that shifted strangely beneath him, forming ripples as though the ground remembered every man who once walked here and refused to let their presence fully disappear. The air tightened immediately, thick with a heaviness that clung to his throat, carrying the faint metallic scent of storms mixed with something older, like the exhaled breath of forgotten warriors watching silently. He crouched low, brushing the dust aside, revealing deep footprints preserved unnaturally, each indentation sharp and deliberate. As though pressed by a man walking with purpose, the valley refused to erase. His fingers hovered above one print, sensing an echo inside it, a lingering warmth that struck him with the unsettling realization that whoever made these marks was not far ahead. The wind shifted abruptly, blowing in short, uneven bursts, behaving almost human, as if mimicking the strained breathing of someone running toward an unseen destination deep within the darkened valley. Aaron rose slowly, scanning the horizon, catching a flash of movement, tall figure darting between broken pillars, moving with the urgency of someone trying to outrun something, neither living nor dead. He quickened his pace, following the frantic trail carved into dust, each step dragging faint ash upward, swirling around his ankles like a restless memory refusing to remain buried. A distant clang echoed through the cliffs, metallic and sharp, sounding like a weapon dropped by a desperate man fighting shadows that refused to reveal themselves. Aaron's heartbeat tightened, not from fear, but recognition. The sound matched the tone of the blade carried by another wandering warrior he once knew but believed long swallowed by this valley. He continued forward, each breath deep and steady, letting instinct guide him as old stories whispered through the back of his mind, warning that footprints often led toward truths carved in blood. The valley narrowed ahead, walls rising steeply, etched with claw-like marks left by something massive dragging itself across stone during storms men no longer remembered clearly. Aaron touched one scarred groove, surprised at its warmth. Realizing the valley wasn't merely haunted by old legends, it was alive, reacting to every man who dared step inside. He stepped deeper, shadows thickening behind him, forming shapes that shifted like silhouettes of warriors watching silently, their postures heavy with expectations carved from ancient duty. A sudden gust tore through the passage, swirling dust upward until it formed a hazy figure, tall and broad-shouldered, mimicking the outline of a man Aaron once followed into battle. Aaron stepped closer, breath held, but the figure dissolved instantly, leaving only dust trembling on the ground as if retreating into the valley's silent memory. A harsh scrape echoed from the next bend, the unmistakable sound of steel dragging across stone, sending shivers through the stillness like a declaration of survival. Aaron moved quickly, rounding the bend, finding another footprint pressed deep into the earth. Larger than the last, trembling slightly as though a heartbeat pulsed beneath it. He crouched again, palm hovering above the mark, sensing a sharp jolt of energy, familiar and frightening, a signature belonging to only one man he had hoped to avoid. The valley hummed louder, responding to his realization, pushing wind around him in tight circles like unseen hands, urging him to confront a truth waiting long behind dust. The path ahead opened suddenly into a wide clearing filled with standing stones arranged in a circular formation, each etched with runes glowing faintly under the storm-dark sky. Aaron walked toward the center, dust rising with every step, pulling away like curtains revealing more footprints, these ones scattered, panicked, made by a man running from something relentless. The runes pulsed again, brighter this time, casting a pale glow across the clearing, revealing a metallic object half buried in dust, glinting faintly beneath shifting shadows. He knelt and lifted it carefully, breath catching as he recognized the weapon, a short steel knife carried by the only warrior stubborn enough to challenge this valley alone. The blade hummed faintly in his hand, vibrating like a warning, its metal etched with scratches made during a struggle far more violent than any mortal fight he had witnessed before. A deep rumble rolled beneath his feet, the ground trembling lightly, as though the valley acknowledged his discovery and opened another hidden layer of its ancient memory. Aaron stepped backward instinctively, scanning the clearing as shadows thickened around the stones, forming faint human-like shapes standing silently in a watchful semicircle. They did not move, but their presence pressed against his chest, heavy with judgment, as though demanding he follow the trail to its final destination without hesitation. Dust lifted again, forming a narrow, swirling path pointing toward a dark tunnel carved into the cliff, its entrance breathing faint warmth like something alive waited inside. Aaron drew a slow breath, gripping the blade firmly, understanding this path was no longer optional. The valley had chosen him to witness what came next. He stepped forward, leaving the clearing behind as the footprints reappeared, guiding him toward the tunnel's shadowed mouth, where destiny waited like a door half opened. The storm quieted as Aaron stepped from the glowing path, entering a hollow where the air felt bruised, heavy with memories of men who once challenged the valley's unseen power and never returned alive. Shadows crawled along the stone walls, shifting like restless warriors, watching him with silent judgment as he crossed the cracked ground that still held the echoes of those who had fallen before him. A low hum vibrated through the earth, rising beneath his boots as if announcing that another man had entered the domain of forces older than breath, older than bone, older than every whispered warning. Aaron tightened his grip on his blade, recalling the face of the one man who believed he could silence this valley's curse, Chiron, the stubborn leader who mocked legends minutes before he vanished. Chiron always laughed at superstition, calling it weakness. Yet his final steps left marks carved deep into the earth, proving legends were never meant for mockers, only for men willing to listen. Aaron found the first sign of him, torn piece of his cloak, pinned beneath a stone still warm, as though the valley had taken him only moments earlier, and not willingly at all. The wind carried a faint groan, masculine and strained, echoing through the canyon like a warning carved into sound, pulling Aaron deeper toward the heart of the valley's darkest memories. He followed the echo, each step slow and deliberate, aware that the valley disliked intruders moving too quickly, punishing haste with disappearances no man could reverse or fully understand. Ahead, the broken silhouettes of old pillars emerged from mist. Structures once built by men who tried binding the ash spirit before. Learning that chains never hold what willingly embraces captivity, Aaron approached one pillar, noticing scrape marks fresh, desperate made by a man clawing for escape, confirming Chiron had indeed reached this place and fought against something stronger than any human hand. Lightning burst overhead, illuminating the valley floor, revealing a trail of scattered stones thrown aside violently, as though a giant had dragged Chiron deeper toward an unseen verdict. Aaron felt a surge of anger, the kind born from witnessing another stubborn man suffer the consequence of pride, a fate Aaron knew too well from his own past mistakes. The air thickened suddenly, vibrating with a second heartbeat that wasn't his. A thudding pulse announcing the presence of something powerful watching him from behind shifting walls of ash. Aaron refused to glance back, knowing fear grew larger when given attention. Instead, he walked forward, trusting the instinct that had kept him alive in battles against both men and spirits. The footprints became clearer, heavier, unsteady, carved deep signs that Chiron had begun losing strength long before he realized what had come to claim him under the valley's silent sky. Each print felt like a message to Aaron, a plea from one man to another, urging him to move quickly before the valley swallowed Chiron completely into its endless hunger. The canyon walls twisted, forming a narrow passage where the wind couldn't enter, leaving every sound unnervingly sharp, as though even silence had a breath of its own. Aaron's steps echoed back at him, but beneath them he heard another rhythm dragging, rhythmic footsteps belonging to something that didn't walk like a man anymore. He spotted shattered rocks ahead, their edges still glowing faintly red, suggesting that whatever passed through here carried enough heat to burn through stone as easily as flesh. The temperature dropped sharply, frost forming on Aaron's knuckles, an unnatural cold signaling that the ash spirit had fully awakened and now prowled for the intruder challenging its ancient rule. Aaron inhaled slowly, grounding himself, letting memories of men he respected guide him, reminding him that courage doesn't erase fear. It simply moves through it with purpose. The valley opened suddenly into a circular chamber, its floor marked with spiraling ash trails resembling fingerprints of giants pressed into the earth during ancient battles. At the center lay Chiron's spear, snapped cleanly in half, its edges melted, proof that arrogance had clashed with something far beyond human strength or understanding. Aaron knelt beside the broken weapon, placing his palm on the ground, feeling the faint tremor of Chiron's fading life echoing from deeper within the valley's unseen chambers. He rose swiftly, each muscle coiled with urgency, realizing that Chiron wasn't dead yet. He was trapped in the one place men feared most, the inner chamber of the ash spirit. A swirl of gray mist rolled across the floor, forming a faint silhouette of a towering male figure, whose gaze pierced Aaron despite lacking a face. The silhouette stepped closer, each movement silent yet powerful, a guardian built from centuries of promises kept, demands enforced, and men humbled beneath the weight of forgotten vows. Aaron didn't back away. Instead, he lifted his blade in acknowledgement, knowing spirits respected men who stood firm rather than those who begged for mercy. The ash figure paused, assessing him, then pointed toward a narrow passage wall, revealing where Sharon had been taken, the gesture carrying both a warning and a challenge. The passage pulsed with faint crimson light, each flicker echoing the heartbeat of a dying man, urging Aaron to move before time devoured another stubborn soul. Aaron stepped toward it without hesitation, ready to face whatever waited inside. Knowing this confrontation would decide whether the valley gained another prisoner or finally lost its power. Aaron stepped into the crimson-lit passage, the air thick as molten dusk, each breath scraping his lungs as though the valley tested whether he deserved to reach the man still fighting for life. The walls pulsed faintly, glowing with trapped memories of warriors who entered centuries ago, their final moments etched into stone-like beating hearts, refusing to surrender their stories. A low groan echoed through the corridor, unmistakably masculine, layered with pain and fading strength. Pushing Aaron to move faster, despite the crushing pressure building around his ribs, he reached a chamber where ash spiraled upward like a silent storm, revealing Sharon suspended in midair, his body wrapped in smoky tendrils trying to claim his final breath. Aaron stepped forward, gripping his blade tighter, feeling the valley's resistance pressing against him as if ancient hands tried to hold him back from altering destiny. The ash churned suddenly, swirling into a towering male figure whose presence made the entire chamber tremble. An entity built from sacrifice, rage, and unbroken centuries of binding. Its eyes glowed like twin embers forged in the furnace of forgotten vows, staring through Aaron with a weight that tested whether he carried strength or hollow bravado. Aaron lowered his blade slightly, understanding this wasn't an enemy born of evil, but a guardian forged by duty, forced to collect blood whenever men shattered their sacred promises. The Ashkeeper stepped closer, each movement silent yet powerful, its presence challenging Aaron's resolve as the air thickened with the pressure of 1,000 unsaid warnings. Aaron took a steady breath, remembering the journal left by the dying warrior, the one who believed the curse could break if a living man chose burden over fear. The chamber darkened suddenly, the only light coming from Sharon's trembling form, his fading heartbeat thumping weakly, like a drum refusing to accept its final strike. Aaron stepped between him and the Ashkeeper, planting his boots firmly into the ancient floor, offering himself as shield and challenger in a single unbroken motion. The Ashkeeper's expression shifted, its molten eyes narrowing, recognizing the stance of a man prepared to sacrifice everything without demanding mercy or bending beneath unseen pressure. Aaron raised his voice, steady and bold, declaring he would complete the vow forgotten by generations, offering his own blood to seal the oath and free Sharon from the valley's grip. The chamber shuddered violently, reacting to the oath, the Ashkeeper's form quivering as though torn between rage, duty, and the possibility of long-denied release. Aaron drew his blade across his palm, letting blood fall onto the ancient ground, the drops glowing as if the valley drank them with reverent hunger. The Ashkeeper roared silently, its form expanding into a storm of embers, the entire chamber shaking as ancient binds tightened around both spirit and man. Sharon dropped to the ground with a heavy gasp, the smoky tendrils dissolving as Aaron's blood oath replaced the broken promise that had awakened the wrathful guardian. The Ashkeeper leaned close, its towering frame bending until its ember eyes hovered inches from Aaron's, silently acknowledging the courage few men ever possessed. For a moment, the chamber felt still, the storm halting as though the valley tried to record this rare act of defiance within its ancient walls. Then the Ashkeeper placed its massive hand over Aaron's wounded palm, sealing the vow, binding man and guardian together through a pact older than the valley itself. Ash spiraled upward, changing shape, merging with Aaron's blood, forming a new sigil across his forearm, glowing with the soft burn of inherited duty. The guardian's form flickered, shrinking slowly, its ember eyes dimming like a fading star as centuries of watch finally loosened around its exhausted spirit. With a final nod, the Ashkeeper dissolved into a soft gust of ash, releasing a sigh that echoed like gratitude. Grief and long-awaited rest intertwined. The chamber brightened, the oppressive storm lifting, revealing the valley floor no longer trembling but breathing calmly as though relishing its first peaceful moment in ages. Charon coughed weakly, confusion in his tired eyes, watching Aaron silently as he realized something ancient had shifted forever in the heart of this cursed land. Aaron helped him stand, steadying him with the quiet strength of a man who now understood the cost of choosing to carry a burden meant for legends. As they climbed back toward the ridge, the storm faded completely, leaving a sky washed clean. The first dawn light brushing the valley with gentle gold. The final gust of wind carried the faint whisper of a male voice calm. Relief thanking Aaron for freeing a guardian who only ever wanted to protect his people. Aaron paused, looking back, knowing the valley's curse was gone, but its history now lived within him, shaped into blood and oath, shaping every step he would walk ahead.